Liberals reserve a real choice in the next election. And it has become obvious to me with the internal battles that I cannot be the one to carry the Liberal standard into the next election.
The Prime Minister announces his plans to resign.
Tonight, a monumental moment in Canadian politics. What's next for Trudeau and the leadership of this country? Good evening. After weeks of speculation and mounting pressure to quit, today Prime Minister Trudeau shared the news with Canadians. He's stepping down as Liberal leader and as Prime Minister once a new leader is chosen.
Trudeau also prorogued Parliament, putting all government work on pause until March 24th. We have extensive coverage for you tonight, including reaction. But we begin with CTV's senior political correspondent Mike LeCouture in Ottawa.
A source close to the Prime Minister tells CTV News Justin Trudeau came to this decision over the last few days. He told his kids over dinner last night and then the rest of the world this morning.
My friends, as you all know, I'm a fighter.
He says he never backs away from a battle, but Justin Trudeau admitted with a growing caucus revolt, it was time to go for the good of the party.
And it has become obvious to me with the internal battles that I cannot be the one to carry the Liberal standard into the next election.
Those internal battles started a year ago when Liberal MPs began calling for a change in leadership. The very public departure of Finance Minister Chrystia Freeland stung and seemed to change his calculation that he could win a fourth mandate.
Recognizing that removing me from the equation as the leader who will fight the next election for the Liberal Party should also decrease the level of polarization that we're seeing right now.
By proroguing Parliament until March 24th, Trudeau has bought the Liberal Party a few months to choose his successor. And opposition parties are ruling out deals to keep the Liberals in power beyond then, regardless of who becomes the new leader.
There is no possible way for this party to become something else in a few weeks. So we are facing the same people with the same values, the same ideology. We have to go in elections.
There will be a vote of confidence. New Democrats will be voting against this government for an election where Canadians will have a choice.
Conservative leader Pierre Poilievre didn't take questions from journalists, only posting this video on social media, taking a swipe at Liberal leadership hopefuls.
They want to protect their pensions and paycheck by sweeping their hated leader under the rug months before an election to trick you and then do it all over again.
Asked if he believes another Liberal leader could beat Poilievre in an election, Trudeau simply said, absolutely yes. Mike LeCouture, CTV News, Ottawa.
Trudeau has become one of the most polarizing figures in Canadian politics in recent years. His resignation sparking plenty of reaction across the country and certainly here in Toronto. CTV's Natalie Johnson joins us live with those details. Natalie.
Well, Michelle, it is no secret that Toronto voters are very important to the federal Liberals, historically very red ridings within the 416. And over the holidays, so many people were talking about what Trudeau would do next and when. Today, he made it official.
Inside Lazy Daisy's cafe this morning, the brunch buzz was all about the PM's drawn-out decision to step down.
I feel it's about time because as a leader, if your people don't have confidence in you, you need to step down.
It's a good change. It's something that we've needed for a little bit of a while now.
In the course of my career.
Cafe owner Don Chapman saying it was clear that a change was needed at the top.
To me, the Prime Minister lost the confidence of the people a very long time ago. I've even written my own MP and say I'm a Liberal, in general, but I would not have confidence in the party with him at the helm.
At Toronto City Hall, Mayor Olivia Chow thanking Justin Trudeau in a statement for his years of public service, writing, quote, "As leadership changes occur in Ottawa, I will stay focused on building more homes, feeding more kids, and getting Toronto moving." Her TTC chair echoing thanks for Trudeau's transit legacy, including the recently announced $758 million in federal funds for new Line 2 subway trains. Confident that plan won't be derailed by new leadership in Ottawa.
There will be a lot of relationship building once a new Prime Minister comes in. And if there is a new government in the future, there will be a lot of relationship building then. But that's just the normal ebb and flow of politics.
Less glowing words for Trudeau, though, from a pair of GTA councillors.
Free flow of these goods represents American and Canadian jobs.
Who are launching an ad campaign on behalf of municipal officials to prevent a trade war between Canada and the U.S. over tariffs, alleging inaction by the PM.
It's a disaster, the approach that he's taking. He should have resigned a long time ago.
It's created a lot of uncertainty, and it is a disaster, unfortunately. And like always, municipal politicians are here to take up the fight.
But as a trade battle brews, back at the coffee shop, there is hope the turmoil on the Hill is the start of a more stable chapter in Canadian politics.
I think the fresh new year, a fresh start, is absolutely essential.
The House will now be prorogued.
All eyes on Ottawa as the Liberals now scramble for a successor.
And Brampton Mayor Patrick Brown issued a statement commending Trudeau for his contributions to that city, saying that public service is not without its challenges and can take a toll on personal life and family. Reporting live, I'm Natalie Johnson. Nathan, over to you.
All right, thank you, Natalie. Donald Trump is also reacting to Trudeau's resignation announcement. The U.S. president-elect posted a message on his Truth Social platform, once again suggesting Canada become a part of the United States. Trump says many people in Canada love being the 51st state. The United States can no longer suffer the massive trade deficits and subsidies that Canada needs to stay afloat. Justin Trudeau knew this and resigned. If Canada merged with the U.S., there would be no tariffs, taxes would go way down, and they would be totally secure from the threat of the Russian and Chinese ships that are constantly surrounding them. Together, what a great nation it would be.
One of Trump's closest allies is weighing in as well. Elon Musk said on X today, 2025 is looking good. He was replying to a user of the platform who posted in part, Trump won, Trudeau resigned. The president-elect has chosen Musk to co-lead America's new Department of Government Efficiency.
Ontario's premier and the prime minister didn't always see eye to eye.
But the tariff threat from south of the border was the focus as Doug Ford reacted to Trudeau's decision to step aside. CTV's Queen's Park bureau chief, Siobhan Morris, joins us live with the details. Siobhan.
Well, the plea from Doug Ford to Justin Trudeau is not to get bogged down in the upheaval in the federal Liberal Party, but to keep his eye on that threat coming from the U.S. From the leader of Canada's biggest province, hours after Justin Trudeau announced a plan to step down, a warning.
Prorogation doesn't mean vacation.
Ontario Premier Doug Ford demanding a full commitment from Trudeau to one issue.
As long as he's Prime Minister, his main focus is not on the Liberal Party, is not on anything else. It should be the next 14 days making sure that we avoid these tariffs.
I, Donald John Trump.
2 weeks from today, Donald Trump returns to the White House. He's threatened to hit Canadian goods with a crushing 25% tariff at the start of his second term. Premier Ford accepts the U.S. may see Canada's negotiating position as weakened.
When there's uncertainty around the world, and the whole world has heard the news, we need to make sure that the premiers step up.
Premiers holding Justin Trudeau to a promise to meet face-to-face.
As chair of the Council of Federation, reaching out to the premiers to get together as early as this week.
To tackle the tariff threat. Trudeau's resignation means new questions about the timing of the next Ontario election. Ford had been considering triggering one this spring to get ahead of a federal vote and any potential anti-conservative sentiment. The premier not giving direct answers, refusing to rule out an early trip to the polls.
What I'm focused on right this second and moving forward is making sure that we don't have tariffs. And God forbid President-elect Trump gets in there and puts tariffs. We have to retaliate. We have to retaliate hard.
Ford is challenging Trump about his latest comments over the Canada-U.S. relationship, now suggesting the countries merge.
I'll make him a counteroffer. How about if we buy Alaska and we'll throw in Minnesota and Minneapolis at the same time? So, it's not realistic.
A wisecrack from Trump that isn't funny in the premier's office.
He may be joking, but under my watch, that will never, ever happen.
Before Christmas, Doug Ford said he'd had a conversation with a U.S. politician willing to arrange a meeting between himself and Donald Trump. There's been no movement yet on that meeting. Reporting live from Queen's Park, I'm Siobhan Morris. Nathan, back to you.
Thank you, Siobhan. And we have more coverage of Trudeau's resignation coming up, including a look back at his political career, the recent turmoil facing his leadership, and who could be in line to replace him.
But first, a look at the forecast on this first full week of January, and it feels like it very cold out there, and the wind chill is packing an extreme punch. On a warmer note, Lindsay Morrison is back from maternity leave. Lindsay, it's so wonderful to have you with us once again, now a mother of two beautiful boys, assuming you bundled them up good today.
I did, Michelle, that's for sure. Thank you so much for the welcome back. And yes, it is a very cold start to this week. It is January after all, and it's going to feel like it really over the next 2 weeks here. Right now, we have biting wind chills. It feels like -16 in Peterborough as well as Hamilton, -18 in the city of Barrie. Currently in the city of Toronto, our temperature itself is -10, but it feels well into the -teens as well. So bundle up if you're heading out into the evening hours tonight. We had a few scattered flurries earlier today. Those have mostly tapered off. Here's overnight at a glance. We're pretty much at our coldest spot, and there's more of this on the way. We're going to talk all about it coming up in your forecast. For now, Nathan, I'm going to send it over to you.
All right. Thank you, Lindsay. Some breaking news tonight. A police officer has been injured in a crash connected to a robbery earlier this afternoon. The CTV News shop is over the scene at Finch and Cheswood. There's a live shot. Officials say the officer sustained a minor lower body injury. Investigators believe the crash happened after 4 suspects fled a robbery at Keele and Wilson. The suspects were all later arrested.
We turn to a major addition to Toronto Transit.
Body-worn cameras are now mandatory for special constables and fare inspectors on the TTC. It follows a pilot project that began last May. CTV's Janice Golding is live at Davisville Station with all the details. Janice.
Hi, Nathan. Yes, since the fall, the TTC has gotten rid of no-tap fare gates at subway entrances, and it's also began using plainclothes inspectors to reduce fare evasion. And now it's adding body-worn cameras into the equation. Constable Gerard Timpompo shows us his new body-worn camera, a device you'll see on each of the TTC's 260 special constables and fare inspectors as of today. The move follows a successful 9-month pilot project that began last May in a move to staunch both fare evasion and to improve transparency.
Our customers want to know and want to trust that the work that we're doing it safely, and that there's no misconduct of our officers, and also to ensure that our officers themselves are safe and that they are protected against threats and assault.
Last year, the TTC says it lost about $140 million to fare evaders, something customers recognize is an issue.
Everybody go inside it, nobody pay a penny.
So you think that these cameras are going to make a difference?
I think so, yes, because they had to pay.
Although not everyone thinks cameras, which come with an initial $950,000 price tag, will make a difference.
I think it's a cost that CTC can save on. Personally, I think it won't help in the way that will fix the problem. People will get in and get out.
Body-worn cameras were trialed initially by 20 special constables and 20 fare inspectors in the wake of a February 2018 incident. In this viewer video, you can see a black teenager complaining of being hurt after he was tackled and pinned by TTC fare inspectors. Following an investigation, the city's ombudsman made several recommendations, while the TTC vowed to make changes to ensure the system provided anti-racist and bias-free service.
From the moment that they're interacting with the public until that interaction's over, you're able to capture exactly what happens. And there's not really a delay in that investigation.
Overall, customers told CTV News today they're on board with the cameras, which the TTC says officers will use when conducting fare inspections or when interacting with anyone who may be violating TTC bylaws.
At first I wasn't crazy about the idea, but I think for them and for liability, absolutely, sure, why not? I mean, most people don't have anything to hide.
I believe when they're interacting with public, it will be more safer if they have the cameras on it, because it'll be easier later on down the road to figure out who did what.
The TTC stresses none of the cameras will be used clandestinely. Officers will notify you if you're being recorded at the outset of an interaction. The current policy is to retain video for 20 years, although the TTC says that is currently under review. Reporting live, I'm Janice Golding. Now back to Michelle.
Thank you, Janice. A fire at a vacant church in Oakville is being treated as suspicious. Police and fire crews were called to the scene at Bronte Road and Rebecca Street this morning. An aerial ladder was set up to battle this blaze. Officials say one man was taken into custody in relation to the investigation, but they say it's too early to say what charges he may be facing.
A frustrating day for some homeowners in Oshawa. Nearly 150 properties were without gas after a vehicle hit a gas line just after midnight. Officials say once it was safe to do so, residents were allowed to return, but 147 homes in the Throwbridge Court and Beatrice Street East area were without gas service. The repairs were expected to be completed by 3 this afternoon.
College students returned to class today after their winter holiday break.
However, the threat of a strike by faculty continues to loom large. CTV's Beth McDonnell has the details.
At George Brown College downtown, students are back in class for a new semester. But with the threat of a faculty strike, it's not clear how long it will last.
It really sucks.
Really worried because, I'm already 24. I just want to proceed with my education.
Without a collective agreement since September, OPSU, the union representing about 15,000 professors, librarians and counselors at Ontario's 24 colleges, delivered its 5-day strike notice Friday, which means students could be out of the classroom on Thursday.
But I wouldn't be too happy about it. I would be wanting to go to school, especially for my program since it's more of like an in-person thing.
Especially considering the fact that it doesn't seem super likely that it won't be a strike. So it's just a concern about trying to get my education done as efficiently as possible.
At the Sheraton Hotel, mediation talks are underway between the union and the College Employer Council, the bargaining unit for the colleges. It says faculty want to reduce hours in the classroom and member demands exceed $1 billion, which would lead to a 55% increase in costs, and is disappointed with the escalation ahead of the talks.
This is to add weight to the mediation. The employer has been very clear that they are unwilling to even consider any of faculty's key issues around, precarity. We have a workload that hasn't changed in 40 years, despite things like the invention of the internet.
Another contentious issue is around the numbers of international students. Colleges say the cut from the new federal cap is significant, while the union says enrollments were used to fund an already underfunded system. Students are hoping for a swift resolution.
That would actually affect my grades. It would affect the way I'm about to study and be taught. That would also affect the crunch time. It would be a bummer. It would be a real bummer.
Mediation between the two sides is expected to continue through Tuesday. If there is a strike, it's not known if we'll see members on the picket line or a work to rule scenario. Beth McDonnell, CTV News.
Well, it was back to class for young students today at the Toronto Catholic District School Board as they opened 2 new buildings. Kids were welcomed into their new schools this morning. In North York, Divine Mercy Catholic Elementary is bringing together 2 schools. The other new building is St. Leo Catholic School in Etobicoke. Both schools feature state-of-the-art facilities. Parents and students say they're excited to be the first class.
What makes you most excited about this new place?
Everything. This is better because the old one, the doors, it's rusty.
Feeling good. No, we're excited about the new building, and it's been a while, but it's going to be exciting for the kids.
I think it's needed because it joins, I guess, the community together and the schools and everybody else, and then they've been waiting for quite a while.
That new school smell. Divine Mercy School also features an integrated childcare center.
At Queen's Park today calls for accountability over accessibility.
Disability advocates say Ontario has fallen short of a pledge made 20 years ago to make the province fully accessible. CTV's Mike Walker has more on the calls for change.
Brian Ellison has used a wheelchair since 2016 and says he constantly faces barriers wherever he goes.
It makes me feel I'm like a second-class citizen.
He says many businesses, even some healthcare facilities he attends, have not taken the necessary steps to improve accessibility.
Services that people take for granted that should be accessible, I think you can get in there. Oh, wait a minute, you can't.
The ayes are 89, the nays are 0.
In 2005, the Accessibility for Ontarians with Disabilities Act was unanimously approved at Queen's Park with the intent of Ontario becoming fully accessible by 2025. That date is here, and advocates say the province is nowhere near that goal.
People with disabilities woke up
to a province that is still replete with soul-crushing barriers.
The act was meant to develop, implement, and enforce accessibility standards covering everything from transit improvements to customer service and building design.
No government established a comprehensive beginning-to-end multi-year plan with deadlines.
Advocates raising concerns over schools.
There are not enough teaching and support staff available who are trained to teach all learners. Many, if not most Ontario schools, lack physical accessibility.
And a lack of accessible housing.
Some people with disabilities are having to crawl around their apartment because they can't get their wheelchair in the door. Parents are struggling to carry teenagers up and down stairs because they can't find an accessible house.
The province says it's meeting standards and notes changes to the building code that encompasses school upgrades as well as new and retrofitted hospitals and long-term care facilities. A spokesperson for the Minister of Seniors and Accessibility stating this builds on the province's historic spending in infrastructure, including public transit investments for the Ontario Line, Northland, and funding for TTC new subways and streetcars, along with Go Transit, Go Trains, Go Buses, and Go Stations, plus over 2,200 new accessible buses being delivered province-wide. Advocates say bold new action is needed to better support 2.9 million Ontarians with disabilities.
We need the government to enact all the enforceable accessibility standards.
They're now pressing each party leader to commit to fulfilling the Act's standards, providing a comprehensive list of recommendations on how to achieve that. Mike Walker, CTV News.
Joe Biden's in New Orleans offering comfort following last week's deadly terror attack. The U.S. President and First Lady Jill Biden visited a memorial for the victims of the New Year's Day terror attack. They also plan to attend an interfaith prayer service and have a private meeting with families of the victims. 14 people were killed and more than 30 others were injured when a man drove a truck into revelers in the French Quarter. Biden also hoped to visit with first responders to express his gratitude.
In Washington, Congress certified President-elect Donald Trump's election victory today.
This announcement of the state of the vote by the President of the Senate shall be deemed a sufficient declaration of the persons elected President and Vice President of the United States, each for a term beginning on the 20th day of January 2025.
As President of the Senate, Kamala Harris presided over a joint session of Congress to count the electoral votes from November's election. Trump and J.D. Vance won with 312 electoral votes. Today's certification comes on the 4th anniversary of the deadly attack on the U.S. Capitol by Trump supporters as he tried to overturn his 2020 election loss. The president-elect has said he will pursue pardons for January 6 defendants on his first day back in office.
Orthodox Christians around the world are celebrating Epiphany. In Turkey, members of a church congregation competed in an event called Sanctification of the Waters. They raced to be the first to retrieve a wooden cross thrown by an Orthodox priest. This year's winner said he joins the ceremony in different cities every year to win the cross. There was also a mass. Epiphany is known as the baptism of Christ for the Orthodox and Three Kings Day for Catholics.
Coming up, award season is underway. The stars converge for the 2025 Golden Globes. The big winners and moments that have people talking still ahead.
And I'm Pat Foran. Coming up on Consumer Alert, more investors say they've lost money to cryptocurrency scams. A Toronto man says he had more than $100,000 stolen from his account after signing into a fake website. I'll have my reports. That's just ahead.
So it's going to be another cold start to the day tomorrow for any kids heading off to school or to the bus stop. Bundle up. We should have a little bit of sun mixing in too. That will be nice. But this cold snap, it's with us for the next couple of days. We'll rebound to seasonal heading into the weekend, but then into next week could be some of the coldest air we've experienced all season. We're going to detail this for you with a full look at your 7-day forecast coming up here on CTV News. Stay with us.
During the first 9 months of last year, Canadians lost more than $94 million to cryptocurrency scams.
There are many different types of fraud related to crypto investing, and now there is one more scam you need to know about. Here's Pat Foran and Consumer Alert. Pat.
Thanks, Michelle and Nathan. An investor bought cryptocurrencies through a legitimate website, but when he went to sign into his account, he Googled the company. A fake website popped up, and $100,000 was stolen within minutes.
This, to me, was entirely shocking that, assets could be lost so quickly.
Art asked that we use only his first name. About 3 years ago, he decided to invest in cryptocurrencies with a company called Kraken. He left money in the account untouched for almost 2 years. When he went to sign in to check on his investments, he did a Google search.
I essentially just did a Google search and looked for Kraken. The first one that came up, I clicked on that, and it was branded the same colors.
The website Art clicked on was actually a fake, spoofed Kraken website. Once he entered his sign-in information, his account was drained within minutes.
In 6 minutes, literally, all of the money was taken out of my account, the crypto assets, to an external wallet that, was never used before.
Art says $100,000 was stolen from his account. When CTV News reached out to Kraken, the company said, "We are sorry for what happened, and we encourage all clients to be extremely careful what they click and ensure they are only utilizing Kraken.com."
If it matches that usual profile, your chances of recovery are 0.
A law firm that specializes in helping investors who have been defrauded in cryptocurrency scams says once crypto assets have been stolen, they're almost impossible to recover. David Milosevic says there are many different types of crypto investment scams. Many involve fake websites that appear to be the real thing.
In an average week in my small firm, I get maybe 40 people a week calling my office telling me they've been defrauded in this type of crypto scam.
In Art's case, the RCMP determined his money was transferred out of the country and is untraceable. He says losing $100,000 has been devastating for his family.
This is money that we don't have that's spare. I have 3 kids, and I've got to put them through college. It's quite disrupting in the family.
And another popular crypto scam involves fake news stories or videos that have been manipulated with AI. Beware of celebrity endorsements, do your research, and be careful using Google to access any financial website. On your side, I'm Pat Foran.
If you have a consumer story idea, email us at alert@ctv.ca.
All right, we're going to talk about the weather forecast. Of course, it's chilly out there, but first, we have to talk about Lindsay.
Lindsay is back. Where did a whole year go? Now you are a mother of 2.
Yes.
Where did it go?
Fastest year ever. I think that happens, though, when you are managing an infant and a toddler. It goes a little bit quicker. I'm so happy to be back. Missing my little guys, of course. That's Lachlan. He turned 1 just before Christmas, a couple of days before. He's doing wonderfully, and there's my 2. So Charlie, older boy, Lachlan, the younger one. Charlie's 3, almost 3.5 now.
Oh, what?
Adorable.
Can I ask? I mean, it's tough when you go back to work because you're missing them, but at least since you work on TV, do you think they might be watching tonight? You can wave to them?
I think they might be watching, and I know that Dad is doing dinner, bath, and bedtime solo tonight, so a shout out to him as well.
Alistair, you're a hero.
It must feel good to be back.
It feels wonderful to be back, even though we're talking about some very cold temperatures. I'm still happy to be here, and I have some good news when it comes to the weekend. Things are slowly going to improve, and as the week goes on, we're also going to see a little more sunshine. There wasn't a whole lot of it this morning. It was a busy morning as many went back to work, back to school after the holidays. Bit of a shock to the system, too, after some milder days to end the month of December and kick off January. The cold air that was situated in Western Canada, that is moving eastward, so we're starting to feel it now here in southern Ontario, parts of Quebec as well. Current temperature is minus 10 degrees in the city of Toronto, where we are. It's even colder in some communities, of course, into the minus teens and even minus 20s for northern parts of Ontario. It's really just part of the story, though. The wind chills, that's the other part. Seasonal norm, let's remember this. We are on average at about minus 2 degrees at this point in the month of January. We are going to see that start to return as we inch toward the weekend. Not tonight, though. Overnight low, minus -10. Again, we're already there. Into tomorrow, forecast daytime high -4. Once again, there will be a chance of flurries. We're not expecting it to amount to anything. You won't have to do any shoveling at this point. Unlike our neighbors south of the border who had a big storm roll through over the weekend, it was a near miss for us. Some areas got a few flurries, but really, for the most part, this has been a dry day. We're anticipating a little bit more in the way of lake effect snow off of Lake Huron as well as Georgian Bay this week. Here in the GTA, though, should be relatively quiet. Let's set our forecast radar in motion here just to show you what could be in store. Now, lake effect snow happens because the Great Lakes are still not frozen. There's a lot of open water. We've got these cold winds blowing off the relatively warmer waters, and that creates these lake effect snow bands. If you spent any of your holiday season in ski country, for example, you know that there's been a lot of snow, and in around London and again southern Georgian Bay, we could see more of that through this week. Here in Toronto, chance of a few flurries, North GTA certainly as well. There might be some cloud here and there also, but I am anticipating that that's going to start to clear. Wednesday is looking like a beautiful sunny day. So too is Thursday and Friday. And at that point, after a bit of a cold night Tuesday and morning Wednesday, we're going to gradually start to warm up. Back to around seasonal for both Friday and Saturday, -2 degrees. Watching Friday night into Saturday for maybe a little bit of light snow. It's beyond this 7-day forecast, but I do believe that we're going to be in for another round of cold air through the middle part of next week, perhaps even colder than what we experienced this week. So it looks like the cold is here to stay. That's your forecast for now. Nathan, I'll send it back to you.
All right. Thank you, Lindsay. Also tonight, from his rise to prime minister to his decision to resign, we look back at the highs and lows of Trudeau's political journey just ahead. We return now to our top story, today's resignation announcement by the prime minister and the race to become the next leader of the Liberal Party.
After weeks of behind-the-scenes maneuvering, the players are expected to finally make their intentions known. CTV's national correspondent Judy Trinh takes a look at the contenders.
The Prime Minister didn't answer why he didn't quit sooner, but after facing a caucus revolt in the fall, he caved on this winter day.
I intend to resign as party leader, as Prime Minister, after the party selects its next leader.
That means Justin Trudeau will still be on the job for several more weeks. For now, the contenders have not outright declared their interest, but most of them publicly thanked Trudeau for his leadership and sacrifice, including the former finance minister, Chrystia Freeland, who forced this moment.
I had really hoped that she would agree to continue as my deputy prime minister and take on one of the most important files that not just this government but this country is facing. But she chose otherwise.
Freeland's resignation and attack on the government's spending priorities have catapulted her to the top of the contenders list, ahead of former Bank of Canada Governor Mark Carney.
Her brand has come out ahead on all of this, and Justin Trudeau is no longer the Prime Minister. So if you think of everything that she probably wanted to accomplish through her resignation, the job is done.
Also among those rumored to be interested in the top job are several women and 4 current cabinet ministers of finance, foreign affairs, innovation and transportation, and a former BC premier. After trailing the Conservatives by double digits for nearly 2 years, caucus members see a ray of hope.
Our chances of winning the next election have just gone up by about 1,000%.
The board of directors of the Liberal Party will meet later this week to set out the rules for the leadership race. A leader has to be selected by March 24th, the day prorogation ends. Whoever is chosen will likely face a non-confidence vote as soon as Parliament resumes. Judy Trinh, CTV News, Ottawa.
So how do we get here? Justin Trudeau has been Prime Minister for nearly a decade. CTV's Scott Lightfoot has a look at his journey as Canada's leader, one that wasn't always smooth.
First elected Prime Minister in 2015, Justin Trudeau promised change for Canadians.
Sunny ways, my friends, sunny ways.
Among his promises, electoral reform, a more open government, improved relations with First Nations communities, and a gender-balanced cabinet.
Because it's 2015.
But it wouldn't take long before the new Prime Minister found himself at the center of controversy. A 2016 Christmas vacation with his family on the private island of the Aga Khan found to violate the Conflict of Interest Act. and a trip to India ridiculed by opponents and even mocked by late-night comedians.
He frankly didn't help the situation by going in heavy on the national dress pandering.
In 2016, the election of Donald Trump came with threats to tear up trade agreements between the two countries. And though Trudeau's government managed to get a deal avoiding tariffs on Canadian steel and aluminum, it was also a government in crisis after allegations that Trudeau's staff had improperly pressured the Justice Minister to help resolve a corruption and fraud case against SNC-Lavalin. That scandal cost the Prime Minister 2 cabinet ministers, as well as his principal secretary and longtime friend. An attempt to turn the page and in a quest for a second majority government, Trudeau called an election in September of 2019. But a photo from decades earlier would dominate that campaign, one of the Prime Minister in blackface.
I should have known better, but I didn't, and I'm really sorry.
This time, it would be a minority government, followed by a test no one saw coming, a global pandemic that saw Canada spend more than $200 billion to help businesses and Canadians stay afloat, and saw controversial mandates that limited Canadians' ability to work, travel, and gather. A protest held in the capital became a headache for the government.
Small fringe minority do not represent the views of Canadians.
In an attempt to deal with the protesters, Trudeau invoked the Emergencies Act, giving authorities the ability to freeze bank accounts and break up protests. A public inquiry found Trudeau had met the threshold to invoke the act, but suggested the situation could have been avoided. As leader of the federal Liberals, Trudeau would go to the polls a third and final time in 2021, again forming a minority government. The Prime Minister managed to avoid the usual issues of a minority parliament by signing a supply and confidence agreement with the NDP in exchange for priorities like national pharma and dental care programs. They would join legalized marijuana and access to medical assistance in dying as part of Trudeau's legislative legacy, which also included Senate reform and $10 a day daycare deals struck with every province. But after nearly a decade in government, the sunny ways had begun to fade, as polls showed the Liberals continually falling behind the Conservatives. An affordability crisis helped to propel anti-Trudeau sentiment. And summer by-election losses in what were Liberal strongholds in Toronto and Montreal marked warning signs. Caucus members joined those calling for Trudeau to resign, and the abrupt and public resignation of his finance minister and political ally on the day the fall economic statement was to be unveiled marked the beginning of the end. After calls for his departure continued to grow from inside the party, Trudeau took time over the holidays to decide it was now time for him to step down. Scott Lightfoot, CTV News.
And our coverage continues online. For more reaction to Trudeau's resignation, who could replace him, and the process of Parliament now, head to ctvnewstoronto.ca.
Now to a big signal of the start of the award show season.
The Golden Globes have been handed out in Hollywood. And CTV's Andrea Case watched it all and joins us live with all the details. Andrea.
Nathan and Michelle, good evening. Yes, now the Globes honor television and film, and with Oscar voting starting on Wednesday, perhaps the glow of a Golden Globe will win the color of the Oscar nominations.
Welcome to the 82nd Golden Globes, Ozempic's biggest night.
Comedian Nikki Glaser did such a good job hosting the Golden Globe Awards, producers say they want her back next year.
I know I don't have much time, and I have dyslexia, so I tend to forget.
But time Zoe Saldana took. Her speech ran 2 minutes and 20 seconds. After 30 years in the business and on the verge of retiring, the Substance star Demi Moore won her first ever acting award.
I had a producer tell me that I was a popcorn actress. At that time, I made that mean that this wasn't something that I was allowed to have.
You could never say a joking Colin Farrell lacked confidence.
No one to thank on this one. I did it all by myself.
We can't all be winners, and Kathy Bates made the most of her loss. A welcome return to the stage for Sir Elton John after a recent severe eye infection.
I'm so pleased to be here with my co-host, Rihanna.
While she didn't make it to the stage, Zendaya made news for another reason, wearing an engagement ring from fiancé Tom Holland. Former co-stars Vin Diesel and Dwayne "The Rock" Johnson's relationship could not be described as a bromance, and it showed.
Hey, Dwayne.
And while the show had some technical difficulties and tried some new camera angles, they weren't always a success.
I want to start by saying this old angled camera thing is very weird.
Wow, so maybe you don't know me. So I'm an actor from Japan. And my name is Tadano Basano. Wow!
when Emilia Perez's director thanked his film's star, Carla Sofia Gascon, the camera cut to Sofia Vergara. Gascon did eventually make it to the stage. The transgender actress spoke on behalf of the cast for their winning film, Emilia Perez.
I am who I am. Know who you want. Thank you so much.
And we want to thank CBS for that video there. Now, as for the host, Nikki Glazer, she's about to go out on tour, and tickets for her shows in Hamilton and Toronto in March and May have just got a little hotter and tougher to get. For CTV News, I'm Andrea Case. Nathan Michelle, I'll send it back to you.
Thanks, Andrea. After the break, a Pickering company files for creditor protection after last summer's deadly listeria outbreak, the surprise layoffs, and the attempt to restructure.
It has become obvious to me with the internal battles that I cannot be the one to carry the Liberal standard into the next election.
Updating our top stories, Justin Trudeau will step down as Liberal Party leader once a replacement is selected. He plans to remain Prime Minister until then. Parliament will be suspended until March 24th to allow for a leadership race.
Our customers want to know and want to trust that the work that we're doing it safely, and that there's no misconduct of our officers.
As of today, body-worn cameras must be worn by the GTC's 260 special constables and fare inspectors. It follows a 9-month pilot project intended to improve public trust, accountability, and transparency.
Services that people take for granted that should be accessible. I think you can get in there. Oh, wait a minute, you can't.
There are calls for the province to take new action to improve accessibility for people with disabilities. Queen's Park approved an act to make Ontario fully accessible by 2025, but advocates say the province is a long way off with many challenges unaddressed. The government says it is meeting standards and says there have been changes to the building code.
Remember to keep up to date day and night at ctvnewstoronto.ca and by downloading the CTV News app.
On the markets, the Canadian dollar closing at 69.76 U.S. cents, up 0.53. Western Canadian Select Oil up 83 cents to close at $60.98 a barrel. And the TSX Composite Index ending at 24,999.79, down just under 74 points.
The Business Report is brought to you by Canadian Western Bank, the bank built for business.
Letters and parcels addressed to Canada are once again being accepted by the U.S. Postal Service. Deliveries resumed today after being suspended because of the Canada Post strike last month. Postal workers in this country have made progress in clearing up a backlog of mail in their care.
It was an unwelcome start to the year for workers at a GTA beverage manufacturer. They were told before New Year's Eve they no longer had a job. As CTV's Rahim Ladani reports, the company they worked for was at the center of a deadly listeria contamination outbreak.
Standing outside demanding an explanation, nearly 120 of now former employees of Juriki say the Canadian beverage packaging company told them to take a holiday break and return to work in January, then surprised them with an email on New Year's Eve saying their employment had been terminated.
You throw us on street like that? That's not right.
I was on a 2-week vacation. I come back and I start my 8 o'clock shift. And this is what happens.
The termination letter states the company has been pursuing a strategic process in an attempt to identify and complete a going concern sale of some or all of its business, but no transaction has been identified to date, and the company no longer has access to financing to continue active business operations and is ceasing operations immediately. It goes on to say the company is unable to make any payment to you in connection with the termination of your employment, including any pay in lieu of notice that may be due to you. Juriki has not filed for bankruptcy, but has filed for creditor protection, showing it owes more than 100 companies a total in excess of $200 million.
You have a paper right to your full severance. Now, how much of that will the company be able to actually repay you once they emerge from creditor protection? Is another story.
Juriki has 1 plant in the United States and 4 in Canada, including a facility in Pickering. That production line was used by plant milk manufacturer Danone and was shut down after it was deemed the source of a listeria outbreak last summer, which led to 3 deaths.
Last month, we had a meeting with the plant manager. He told us that there is nothing going to happen. The company is safe. So from January, there are more orders to come for the company. So the company is safe, don't worry.
Jericho, Danone, and Walmart Canada are named in a class action lawsuit launched in Quebec over the listeria outbreak. The lawsuit has not yet been certified by a judge. Rahim Ladani, CTV News, Toronto.
Tonight, a historic announcement.
I intend to resign.
They've let you down.
But what has really changed?
The upheaval and the implications. What's next for the Liberals and when Canadians could head to the polls? Later on CTV National News.
Few things can spark wonder and awe in the night sky like the northern lights.
And tonight we have new images that are out of this world in more ways than one. Have a look at this footage from NASA astronaut Don Petit. It is capturing time-lapse images of the colorful lights while in space, in orbit over eastern Canada. The northern lights are also known as auroras, and if they're near the North Pole, they're called aurora borealis.
That's something to look at. Lindsay.
Yeah, it kind of feels like the North Pole tonight here in the city of Toronto, and some surrounding areas too. Worth mentioning as well that we've got some lake effect snow impacting Niagara region if you're joining us from St. Catharines or Welland. Also some light snow around the southern end of Lake Huron, so southwest of Grand Bend, for example. But everyone else, it's mainly just the cold that you're dealing with tonight and some gusty winds. Tomorrow's forecast high is -4 degrees. We should have a mix of sun and cloud. A few flurries going to be possible as well, but big story, cold wind chills sticking around for the next few days. A little bit warmer as we make our way into the weekend, but really just seasonal, and then we're back below into next week. Nathan and Michelle.
Thank you so much, Lindsay. Appreciate the heads up. That's it for us, but you can join Omar Sachedina tonight at 11 for CTV National News, followed by Zoraida Allman with your next local newscast at 11:30.
In the meantime, our coverage continues anytime on CP24 and at ctvnewstoronto.ca.
For Lindsay Morrison and all of us here at CTV News, thanks for watching and have a great night.